Big, beautiful, loving planet called Earth. So I know I said that I wanted to do every day for the rest of this week that I would do reading two parts of each of the Anna Karenina thing from online because I finished the book. But I think we take a break for at least today. Maybe tomorrow we get back into that and we read we read part 3, 4, 5. Then on Friday, Friday we'll read 5, 6, and 7, and then Saturday we'll read the 8th part. But there's something a little bit more important that I would like to talk about in today's vlog. Actually, there's a couple of things. As you all are aware, there's this little tournament that's going on right now that everyone is going to be a part of, and it's called March Madness. Which means that there are 64 teams that will be vying for a spot to win the national championship this year. And I felt like I would run down every single matchup from every every section that is on here. But today there are 2 games being played that will get them into the tournament to play the number 1 seed and the number, 7 seed. So, out of the East, it is UConn, the number 1 seed, versus Stetson, the number 16 seed. Then you got Florida Atlantic, the number 8 seed, versus Northwestern, the 9 seed. Then you got number 5 seed San Diego State versus the 12 seeded UAB. Then you've got the number 4 seed Auburn versus the number 13 seed Yale. You got the number 6 seed BYU versus Duquesne, the 11th seed, which I probably butchered that, I apologize. The number 3 seeded Illinois versus number 14 seeded Morehead State. The number 7 seed Washington State versus the number 10 seed Drake. And the number 2 seed Iowa State versus the 15 seed South Dakota State. And that's out of the East. Now, out of the West, we got North Carolina, the number 1 seed, versus the number 16 seed Wagner. We got Mississippi State, the 8 seed, versus the Michigan State 9 seed. We got St. Mary's, the 5th seed, versus the 12 seeded Grand Canyon. We got the number 4 seeded Alabama versus COL of Charleston, the 13 seed. Then we got number 6 seed Clemson versus the 11 seeded New Mexico. Then we've got the number 3 seeded Baylor versus the number 14 seeded Colgate. And then we got the number 7 seeded Dayton versus the number 10 seeded Nevada. And finally, out of the West, it's the number 2 seed Arizona versus the number 15 seeded Long Beach State. Out of the South, we have number 1 Houston versus the number 16 seeded Longwood. And then we have Nebraska, the 8 seed, versus the 9 seeded Texas A&M. We have the 5 seeded Wisconsin versus the 12 seeded James Madison. We got the number 4 seed Duke versus the number 13 seeded Vermont. And then we have the number 6 seed Texas Tech versus the number 11 seed North Carolina State. Then we have the number 3 seeded Kentucky versus the number 14 seeded Oakland. And then this one is the 10 seed, whoever wins today, between Colorado and Arizona, I believe it is, will be facing the number 7 seeded Florida, and whoever that is, the number 10 seed. Then we got the number 2 seeded Marquette versus the number 15 seeded Western Kentucky. And that's the South bracket. The Midwest bracket's got Purdue versus the winner of the other play-in winner today, which will be the number 16 seed. We got the number 8 seeded Utah State versus number 9 seeded TCU. We have the number 5 seeded Gonzaga versus the 12 seeded McNeese. We got the 4 seeded Kansas versus the 13 seeded Samford. We got the 6th seeded South Carolina versus the 11th seeded Oregon. we've got the 3-seeded Creighton versus this 14-seeded Akron. We have the 7-seeded Texas versus the 10-seeded Colorado State. And finally, out of the Midwest, we have the 2-seeded Tennessee versus the 15-seeded St. Peter's. Now, who knows what's going to happen? There'll probably be a lot of bracket busting that goes on tomorrow night and Friday night, and then we go from 64 to 32, and then 32 to 16, then 16 to 8, then to the Final Four, and then to the the championship game, which will be on April 8th, which is a long ways away. There's a lot of games between now and April 8th. So, anyways, and when each team moves on, I'll tell you which teams move on at the end, towards the end of each vlog, regardless of whether I do the book review or the book next 3 parts of the book on tomorrow, and then so forth and so on. We've got a few birthdays to wish today, so let's just dive into that. I would like to wish Tyler Shelton a happy 30th birthday, Tessa Violet a happy birthday, and Justine Izaric a happy 40th birthday, as well as today's the 20th, okay. And I want to wish Ruby Rose a happy birthday today as well. And that does it for birthdays today on this 20th day of February of March. This is March. We're almost at the end of March. We have 11 days left in March to get through. And we'll see how things go from here on out. Whether that's March Madness, getting ready for my 35th birthday, getting towards the end of March, all of that stuff. I did get a haircut. What do you guys think? Even though I probably won't be reading the comments. But I did get a haircut nonetheless to get ready for the summer months that are coming up in the next couple of months, and figuring out a lot of other stuff as well. Anyways, I will see you all tomorrow with a brand new vlog, and bye-bye.